Hi, Florian.
Hi
Thank
there,
you.
good morning.
Thank you for being here. And congrats with your new job title. I will write it out loud. You're now the Associate Director and Senior Research Consultant. So that seems impressive. What is the difference compared to your older job?
Yeah, first of all, thanks. And I guess it's more bringing our research into the world, going live on stage, communicating better with people across the globe, and letting them know what our studies do, what our research is about, and yeah, maybe talking about our philosophy of human experience, research, and attention. First of all, thanks for having me today. I'm going to present the results of our Track the Success study. And as it's already been said, it's kind of a continuation of the work Dr. Karen Nelson Field has already done before. And actually, you can see it as kind of maybe an actually application of kind of some things that the Karen Nelson Field has already talked about. We will see something about attention, about perception, but maybe most importantly about differences in these across different media platforms. Maybe just one quick word about me and us. I'm Florian Passlick. I'm coming from iSquare. We're a global market research company, as you can see. We've been founded in 1999. I'm part of the brand and media experience team. So we're doing a lot of advertising effectiveness studies like this one, but also attention measurement, emotion measurement. We also have UX teams. We also do shopper research. As you can see, we do this across the globe with about 72 consultants right now. And most importantly, we are proud about the awards we've gotten. You can see them below. But I think most importantly, I would like to talk about our proprietary software, and which is US patented. But I will do this later because it's played a vital role in the research we've been done, and maybe it's good to show it hands-on. So far about us as iSquare. I will go into the background of the study. And what we did is we analyzed media experiences, we analyzed media contexts for the German screen force. And we did this in 2020, 2021 across different platforms you can see here. Of course, Screenforce, as a broadcaster union, we're very interested in TV and BVOD. But also, as we are all interested in YouTube and Facebook, we analyze these platforms as well. For the live TV, we had different public and private TV shows from German television, very, very famous, very, very common general interest programs. For the effects on the BVOD platform, we had Germany's, I believe, biggest platform, RTL Now, which is quite big. And then we had YouTube and Facebook, as I already said. Maybe it's interesting to note that for TV, we only studied this on the big TV devices, obviously. For Facebook, we've only done this on smartphone. But for the BVOD platform and YouTube, we had the participants actually surfing either on their phone on YouTube and BVOD or on the TV. So the values you'll be seeing for BVOD and YouTube, they are both mixed for smartphones and for the smart TV devices that are being more and more common, more and more popular in usage now. And maybe to shortly go into the background of the study and our approach to it, we call it human experience testing. And what we wanted to do, we wanted to reflect different stages that of perception, of effect and awareness that might happen during an ad contact, during media contacts. We label these as different systems. With system 0 being the perception, as Dr. Karen Nelson Field already said in the beginning. If there's an ad, if there's a media contact that's not being attended to, that's not being seen, it cannot have an effect. So of course, it's very, very important to study attention, user behavior. System 1 is an implicit form of reaction that's not explicitly processed by the participants. So we're talking about activation. We measured the skin conductance levels and the emotions expressed during an ad contact. And then we also have the explicit responses. We call that system 2, and that's the classical questionnaire data, talking about recall, ad recall, and purchase intention. Let me shortly go into the methodology. I've already been talking about our US patented software, and this is the examples I wanted to give you about that. And what's important to note here is that we had participants either surf on YouTube or Facebook, the BVOD platform for RTL, as well as the TV. We did this in a natural environment. So we actually had participants surfing on a live replication of YouTube or Facebook. They've been seeing popular content at that time in Germany. And the only thing that changes from our side is controlled ad context. So while participants are, for example, freely surfing on YouTube, the only thing we do, the only thing that we change is actively controlling what kind of ads they have contact to, which allows us to actually build a quite a delicate and quite elaborated test design across all the platforms and able to be, in order to be able to do a really valid, comparable measurement of attention effectiveness across all these platforms. And our in-context technology really helps us in having participants do a cool task, being able to surf on YouTube without it being a mock-up or something, but also being able to reflect a really authentic media content in that way. And maybe one word about when we actually executed the project. It was end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So really the height of the COVID pandemic back then. And of course, we wanted everybody to be safe. So we kind of needed to find a workaround around the COVID pandemic. We didn't want our operators, our colleagues to actually go into people's homes. So we developed the home kit technology, as we call it. Participants were actually able to administer the study all by themselves, and we have prepared a short video to show you what that actually means. So participants actually received all the equipment they needed in a box. This was a laptop, a testing smartphone, webcams. This is the skin conductance measurement. They were connecting everything by themselves, but they always had contact with an operator from us if they needed to. And at the end, we checked that everything is installed correctly. And then we had different test groups. Some participants were surfing on the smartphone. Some were surfing maybe VOD on the TV or just watching TV. It depended on the test group. And we actually gave them a booklet with the programs they were able to watch. And each and every task was between 15 and 20 minutes. So actually, this worked very well. We were surprised by how well it worked, and it's actually a good base for us to continue doing this research, maybe without even us having operators in the home. And back in 2021, we did this mainly in Germany, but also some parts of the German-speaking Switzerland and Austria, because this was relevant for Screenforest as the market. In the end, we had 549 in-home media ethnographies. This means that we had 549 people surfing across these platforms, having ad contacts. We took care of the demographics. We had a good mix in there. We took care of the countries. We took care of a good mix across the cities in the German-speaking countries, which actually gave us a very, very good and large database to build results on. And I believe that's it for the background. And finally, we're going into the results of the study. First, of course, what's most important maybe to look at is what kind of effects and what kind of impact we're actually seeing between the ads. And what we're seeing here, I took aided ad recall as one example because the data is quite consistent across the platforms, is that TV is almost always on top in terms of recall, purchase intention, with BVOD following in second. Then we already see somewhat of a gap between BVOD and YouTube in terms of recall. And then we see that ad contacts on Facebook actually have the lowest ad recall across across all platforms. We actually also see the control group in a dotted gray line. And just as a background to let you know, BVOD and YouTube, you can see the bar being cut in half. That's because the value is reflecting both ad contacts on smart TV devices and on smartphones for YouTube and BVOD. And one word on Facebook, we wanted to make this research as fair and valid as possible. So some of the ad contacts of Facebook were actually, we call them optimized ads. So they were already vertical, being designed for Facebook specifically. And the other half of the ads we tested were normal TV ads that are also being used on Facebook, right? So we wanted to show the difference between that as well. And one of the other most important ad effectiveness measurements is purchase intention. And we see a very comparable picture here. We see TV being on top with BVOD actually having the same value. So we see that after ad contacts on TV or BVOD platforms, purchase intention is the highest compared to YouTube, and again, Facebook being the last of the four. Maybe one word about this year, when we compare the purchase intention to the ad recall I've showed before, we're seeing that the differences are still there, but they're getting less and less minimal. It's just that we're seeing that the purchase intention is at the lower end of the ad funnel, and we're seeing that the brand images as well as the purchase intention, those are manifested for a long time. So there's not a lot of movement in these actually. So much for the ad effectiveness measurements. And I will go into perception and what we are actually seeing in the data that might explain these differences in ad effectiveness. First of all, attention. What we're seeing is that attention to ad contact on TV is by far the highest. We're seeing that of the average ad duration on TV, 94% of this time, participants actually attended to the ad and focused on it. And then you can see for BVOD, this is already getting less. For YouTube, even less. And then we're seeing a very big break in attention being spent to ad contacts on Facebook. So while you could say that for TV ads, on average, 94% of the time, participants paid attention to the ad. For Facebook, it was only 43% of that time. So this is already one huge explanation of why the ad recall is so much lower for Facebook. Another background, actually, Dr. Karen Nelson was already going into, is the way the ads are being played out and the technological background of it. So what you can see here in the left side of the table is the sound being played, and we can see that ads on TV and ads on BVOD always had their sound on, YouTube as well, of course, their video platforms. But for Facebook, already 1/3 of the ad contacts actually had the sound being on. And if we look at ads being played in full screen mode versus in not full screen mode, we can see that TV and BVOD are always being played in full screen mode. While for YouTube on smart TV, this is true as well. But we can also see that YouTube on the mobile is actually almost never being played in full screen mode, but in portrait mode. And for Facebook, this is even less. We see that only 16% of the ad contacts on Facebook actually were played in full screen mode. Maybe just shortly to show what this means, the German BVOD platform, it always shows each and every video, each and every ad contact in full screen mode. So this is 100% of the screen coverage for the ad. We saw that most of the ads on YouTube were actually not being played in full screen mode. And if you look at the screen coverage, that actually means that only 25% of the screen were covered by the ad, compared to 100% on BVOD. And for Facebook, this differs. Some of the ads on Facebook were optimized for the social media platform, some weren't, but it's still quite less of screen coverage for the Facebook ads compared to BVOD. If we compare BVOD on TV and YouTube on TV, in terms of screen coverage, there's no difference because YouTube on the smart TV as well as BVOD, they're always being played in full screen mode, but the real difference is on the smartphone. 100% of the ad contacts for the BVOD platform on the smartphone were in full screen mode. For YouTube, it was only 8%. Most of the times, the majority of times, participants looked at the ads on the smartphone in portrait mode. And actually, of course, this plays into the attention, right? So we developed something called the ad perception chance. And while we've already seen the attention being paid to an ad in general, we also multiplied this by the screen coverage an ad has on the screen, which actually leads to something called ad perception chance, the likelihood of an ad even being seen, being attended to for a longer time. And if we multiply these two factors, we see that the break between TV and BVOD on the one hand and YouTube and Facebook on the other hand are are quite big, and we see that the general attention to TV and BVOD is by far the highest. Maybe some quick words about the reaction we've been seeing. We've been studying emotional responses, and we see that they are about the same for TV, BVOD, and YouTube, with very little emotional responses being shown for Facebook ads. They're just too small, they're just too quickly at being attended to. They can't have this effect that TV, BVOD, or YouTube ad contacts actually have. So we are seeing a lot less emotionalization after contact to these ads. And we're also seeing that the difference in emotional response between content, we're seeing that in the left bar, and Facebook ads is the biggest for Facebook. And for the other platforms, we're seeing that ads actually cause as much emotional response as the ads actually do. Talking about activation, we measured the skin conductance measurement with the little gadget you've been seeing. We measured that in terms of peaks per minute, and we're seeing that there's not much of a difference between peaks per minute for TV, BVOD, or Facebook, but there's a lot of difference in relation to TV, BVOD, or Facebook compared to YouTube. And this is one hint that actually the ad contact experience is the most disruptive on YouTube. I'm selecting a content video I want to watch, and then an ad is coming at first. I need to wait for this, and this is actually, causing a lot of disruption. We call it a break between advertising and content. And one last slide before I'm finished. We did this study in 2021, in the beginning of 2021, with only non-skippable ads on YouTube. And then afterwards, we also did some add-ons to the study. We studied out-of-home effects. We studied YouTube skippable effects, and maybe just a word on how skippable ads on YouTube perform. First of all, what we see, yes, the majority of participants, of course, skip the ad when that's being possible. We see there's some difference between that happening on the smartphone and the desktop, but on average, 2/3 of the participants skip the ad when it's possible. And this, on average, is happening after 7.8 seconds. So, of course, if an ad is becoming skippable on YouTube, participants do actually skip. And this, of course, also has an effect on the ad effectiveness and recall in the end. I guess I could talk about this project, this study, for ages. We have a lot of slides. We have some limited time for today, so I've just been talking about the key points. I've noted down the URL, the link. You can feel free to contact me or visit the website in case you want to see more about this project, and feel free to reach out with any questions or comments you might have. And thanks for bearing with me. I had COVID recently, so sometimes there's still a cough coming up, but I've managed, and I went through.
Thank you, Florian. Great study, great results. First question, how were those results received in the countries that you've carried out the research?
Well, we've done that in German-speaking countries last year, and of course for TV and BVOD marketers, they were very favorable. But we didn't get that many, critical responses or critical questions from YouTube and Facebook, which actually for us was a good sign that it seemed to have landed well with everybody at the end.
How do you see to it that you have an as normal situation within the households where you execute your research? So what do you do to prevent that the participants in the survey pay a lot more attention to the commercials than they do in a normal situation?
Got it. First of all, participants are really at their home. They are on their sofa. They are wherever they normally consume media. So it's a very natural environment. Second of all, with the new approach, there's no one of us, being there, being present as an operator, so they can freely do what they want to do. And second of all, we try to make the tasks as open as possible. So we really just tell them, for the next 20 minutes, please watch, the BVOD platform as you normally would. And seeing that it looks as the normal platform, it shows the content that the actual platform has. This is basically, I would say, almost everything we can try to make the research as natural as possible and to get the authentic data of a realistic media contact that we can.
One more question for you, Florian. YouTube was included in the study. Can you tell us something about the screen area for an average YouTube ad? What did it get in your study?
Yeah, so what we've been seeing is that I think I showed the picture. Most of the ad contacts for YouTube on smartphone were actually in portrait mode, and that was around 25% screen coverage. So if you compare that to TV, obviously always having 100%, but even BVOD always having 100%, YouTube always having 100% on the smart TV app, it's a lot of difference. It's a big difference, and that actually, of course, highly decreases the chance of being attended to, of the ad receiving attention. And what we're seeing in many studies is that actually participants and users alike are trained to this. They already know, okay, there's a pre-roll coming on YouTube, and they use the time to look for recommended videos, to maybe go into the comments for the video, which of course even more decreases the chance of attention for the ad to receive.
Yes, Florian, one more question from the chat box. Very interesting one about branded partnerships and about content creators. Has there been similar research into the attention for brand collaborations with content creators? So we just talked more about spot advertising, but what about branded partnerships or influencers?
We haven't done a comparable, let's say, large-scale study that just focused on content creators. We have done one that's very, very interesting in, I think it was the end of last year, beginning of this year, in the US, and we compared ad contacts and ad effectiveness across different forms of quality of YouTube videos. So, for example, we showed participants ad contacts that were only played out after professional videos, so maybe something produced by a TV studio on YouTube, and then by some very famous YouTube creators, so very big channels, very famous people. And then we also had a test group that has only seen the famous user-generated videos with maybe a medium form of quality, the famous cat videos, the famous humorous videos. And what's very interesting is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of difference in ad effectiveness between those three different types of contents on YouTube, for example. So we can see that ad contacts after professional produced videos have almost the same ad effectiveness as ad contacts after influencer videos, creator produced content, and ad contacts that were played in the same context as, let's say, very, very quick, very funny, moderately qualitative videos. They also showed the same ad effectiveness. There's a lot of studies being done on that topic. It's quite interesting, but that's all I can say for now, at least about our research.
Okay, thank you, Florian.
Thank you for your attention. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.